Hi, welcome to Judiciary Academy's YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to discuss the changes that have happened in IELTS PG 2022 exam, and we will particularly talk about how to answer descriptive questions. So let's start this video and first take a look at the changes that have happened. So among other things, there have been major changes in the pattern for IELTS PG 2022 exam. So IELTS 2022 for LLM will have two sections now. Section A will have MCQ questions and section B will have two descriptive questions. So earlier there only used to be MCQ questions in IELTS exam, and even though CLAT PG has experimented with subjective questions in the past as recently as in 2019, but since then there has not been the subjective portion in CLAT PG examination. But this year IELTS has introduced descriptive questions without much clarity on how much will be the word limit or any other guidance with respect to the changes that have happened in the exam. But so far as section B is concerned, there'll be around 8 to 10 questions from different branches of law, out of which the candidates will have to answer any two descriptive questions, which are of 25 marks each. Now, there is no word limit specified in IELTS 2022, so we might only be able to get to know about this while taking the exam. So this is the change that has happened in IELTS examination. We have also made a previous video on the detailed changes that have taken place. I'll be linking that in the description box. If you want to see those changes, you can do that. In this video, we are particularly going to talk about how to write a scoring subjective answer. So there are four important things that you have to keep into mind while writing a good answer. Your answer should have an introduction. The introduction is not merely something which is there as a heading, but introduction is supposed to introduce your answer. It is supposed to summarize the question in easy words. It must have the scope of what you are going to do with that question, and it must in general give a basic understanding of what you are going to deal with in that particular answer. The second and the most important thing is the main body of your answer, that is the content of your answer. So we'll also be talking about whether you should be preferring quality or quantity when it comes to the main body of your answer. The third important thing is to understand that dividing your answer in paragraphs is a much better strategy than simply writing a monotonous answer without any breaks. So division in paragraph also helps the examiner understand that what are the subtopics that you have dealt with, and if the question has more than one part to be answered, then it also gives clarity as to where one part is ending and where the answer to the other part is starting. So dividing it in easy, important divisions is very necessary for helping the examiner navigate through your answer in a much easier fashion. Lastly, as your answer should have introduction, your answer should also have a conclusion. The whole understanding of a conclusion is simply to summarize your answer. Whatever position that you have discussed in the main body of your answer, conclusion may you really need to sum it up. You need to give your views on the question that has been asked. Now let's deal with individual topics. So the first thing is introduction. So a few things about introduction that you should keep into mind is that the introduction should be brief. It shouldn't be too long. It should address the question in whole. It should outline the subparts, if any, of the question. It must detail the scope of the answer as to what you are going to deal with in that particular question, and it must lay down a framework of subtopics of discussion. So you may also list down the subtopics that you will be discussing to answer that question. Next is the main body of your answer. Now, of course, what you write in your answer will largely depend on whether you know enough about that topic or not. So the quality of the answer, of course, is very relevant, but sometimes quantity may also become important. So when there's a debate between quality versus quantity, you must always choose quality, because the answer may be short, but the answer should have a substance. As long as you are answering the question, it is okay if the answer is short. So you should never compromise quality over quantity. However, having said that, sometimes you do have to be mindful of the volume of the answer also. For example, if there's a topic on which you don't really know much or in which you know very little, try switching to another topic, because if you're not able to devote enough space to that answer, if you're not being able to answer that question properly, it might also be a problem. And this is why you will be having at least 8 to 10 questions, out of which you will only have to choose 2. So this shouldn't really be a problem. But in any situation, quality should always win over quantity. Coming to the next important thing, that your main body of the answer should be divided into paragraphs. This does not mean that you should have paragraphs after every 2 lines, but it means that areas which are divisible, areas or thoughts which are separate from each other, must be dealt with in different paragraphs. You must always highlight the keywords or key phrases of your answer, because an examiner does not have a lot of time to devote to one answer sheet. So you always have to make sure that whatever are the important bits of your answer, you highlight them or underline them. That's totally your choice. Next, you must always use smart headings which are reflective of the content that is being discussed in them. So you must always supplement your paragraphs with correct headings for the same. Next is the conclusion. So the conclusion is again something in which you don't have to put a lot of thought in, but it must be there in your answer, because this is the part wherein you are going to actually answer the question. So the main body is where you discuss different thoughts with respect to what you are answering. You give a lot of reasons for either side, but in the conclusion you must state your finding clearly. If the question has asked for one, if the question is something which only requires you to enter into a discussion without answering any hypothetical, then you must answer the question. So a conclusion is important. It again has to be brief, but it must answer the question. Lastly, there are some additional pointers that you should be keeping into mind while writing a good scoring answer. First is, you must stick to the word limit. Sticking to the word limit is important because the examiner is also testing whether you are capable of following the instructions or not, whether you are capable of being concise within the word limit or not. So it is very important that you do not exceed the word limit in any case. Next is, your answer must have a flow. It should not feel like a random compilation of information, but one part should be connected to the part that follows. So your answer definitely should have a good flow. Next is, your answer should be crisp and relevant. You do not need to write a lot, but whatever you write has to be meaningful, crisp, and relevant. Next, be mindful of proper spacing in your answer. Although the aesthetics of your answer don't really matter much, but what does matter is that whether your answer is properly legible to the examiner or not. So always be mindful of proper spacing. Lastly, any reference to recent events or recent judgments always adds to the quality of your answer. Since you're lawyers, since you're law graduates, of course, supplementing your answer, whatever you are discussing, with any important recent debate, any judgment that you might have read regarding the same issue, will always help add to the quality of your answer. So this brings us to the end of our video. These are the things that you should be doing. We also have an important announcement that we are organizing the second CLAT PG open mock competition on 13 March 2022. The exam will be between 3 to 5 p.m. The registration is free. It's designed in the latest pattern, and there'll be an all India ranking and detailed analysis of the mock available. The link for registration will be in the description box. Lastly, one small topic as to how to improve your answers. So there are only 3 things that you can do. You can practice answer writing as much as possible. You can probably pick up a topic every week and write an answer on that. And always time your answers. Always see as to how much time you are taking for answering that question, and make sure that that is the correct time for answering that question, keeping into account that you will always have like 100 MCQs to solve as well. So always time your answers. Lastly, get somebody to review your answers. It could be a friend, it could be a senior, it could be a teacher, but always get a second opinion on the answer that you are writing. So this brings us to the end of our video. If you like this video, please like and share and subscribe to our YouTube channel.